Hi, this is Stan and Kepler. Welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm really struggling to keep up with a once-a-week video schedule right now because I've got 3 projects going all at the same time. Now, I don't say that to complain. It's kind of fun, but I've had to tear apart my game room, and at the same time I've got to rebuild a bathroom project. I've got to rip out a tub and some walls and put a walk-in shower in there, and in between everything else I decided to start working on another locomotive for my ride-on railroad. So my quiver's full right now, so I'm going to do a quick video this week, and I want to show you something on my slot car table, and that is making some down and dirty quick scenery for something like a slot car table. Let's go take a look. Alright, so I will carefully position the camera so that you can't see what kind of a mess I've got going in here. But anyway, I'll put a link down below for the build of this track. This is a homemade track, and I think there were 9 episodes, and you might find that interesting if you haven't already watched that. But the club that I race with, we race analog 1/32 and 1/24 scale cars. No magnets or digital fancy pants things, and we like to go fast. We like to have fun, and that means the laws of physics come into play frequently. Things crash into each other and into structures on the track. So I have a unique philosophy or mode of operation when it comes to scenicking a track. And I thought, well, why don't I take just a few minutes and show you how I do some down and dirty, quick and easy scenery, and that is not a permanent structure on the track, and it's not overwhelming. I have this personal taste where I don't like to see tracks that look like a toy chest dumped upside down or like an explosion at Toys R Us. So I think a little bit goes a long way. And one of the key things about a slot car track is clean. We want the track clean, and that is like a huge deal. So I don't want the scenery on this track to get in the way at all of being able to clean the track and creating a mess. I built the track without any scenery at all on it, although I did account for that in the back of my mind, knowing that I would add just a few little things. I live in a community where we do have a lake and trees, and so I named my track Lakeside, and I took those things into account. So you can see I've got a lake going here, and just a tiny bit, just to add a little bit of an effect. So let's take a look. So here, for example, is a piece of scenery, and you can see it is completely removable. And that's what I like. I can take things out for repairs to get things really clean, and the scenery is really not too much. It's not over the top. It's just a hint. Better to have less than more. So I thought, well, let me show you how you can really do a little bit of scenicking like this without much effort. So to do that, first thing we're going to do is pick up a piece of scrap paper. So let's pretend that we want to put a little bit of scenery right here. Now, I'm not going to put scenery here because this is the end of a long straightaway, and this is where the finish line is, and people are burning through here at as fast as they can and braking at the last minute. And we do have some crashes and collisions here. So this would not be a good spot for scenery. Too much action, marshalling, grabbing things. But for the sake of this video, this is an unused area, and let's go ahead and pretend that we'd like a little bit of sort of grass and maybe a tree or something like that in here, just to bring some of the outdoors onto the track. When I built the track, I just painted the whole surface, and you can see I added some kind of Formula One green and white striping and things like that, just to have something covering the MDF. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to just take a scrap paper out of the shred bin here, and we're going to just give a rough idea of a shape that we want. So let's just kind of trace that out, kind of round it a little bit. So we kind of want it maybe to come just back behind that wall, and not right here, but this side of the light post, so we can head out to the shop. So this is the only clean spot I have left in the shop, the table saw. Sometimes that happens. Let's just roughly cut out our shape. Kind of the space that we want to fill here. There we are. So here's a piece of scrap foam board. This will work as good as anything. Here's our shape that we want to cut out. Then just quick with a magic mark, I'm just going to give a little trace on here. Great. Now let's just cut this out. Now you can use almost anything to cut this foam, a knife. I have a bandsaw that works pretty good. So the more specific the location that you have is, the more careful you want to be. For me, I'm just going to freewheel it because that space is kind of wide open and I don't have too many obstructions. So what we want to do now, you see this stuff has some foam on the, or foil on the back and some plastic on this side. So as you can see, I'm not going to have a stone wall or anything like that. So I'm going to make a gradual mound out of this so that the earth will come up and just kind of be mounded a little bit rather than taking the time to put like stones or bricks or whatever. So the tool for the job, ta-da, one of these old meat cutters, or you can use a knife or whatever you have. But it does create a lot of little Hallmark Channel Christmas snowfall effect on there, so you may want to not have your best clothes on because you get all kinds of stuff stuck to them. But let's go ahead and give some rough shape. There we are. Basically, you just gouge it up and kind of like make a little mound out of it with a lot of different surfaces and bumps and lumps to it, as much like ground. Let's just trim that a little bit. And a tool like this is a lot better, especially if you can do a lot of it, than something like a palm sander that makes incredible amounts of dust. Okay, so this is our basic shape. If you wanted to go crazy, you could take some plaster, some joint compound, something like that, and you could rub that all over and maybe make some little marks on it like rock faces or some little retaining wall or some little fun little features like that. But we're not going to do that. So next, I want to coat this with some paint. So I'm just going to use some acrylic paint. Any color will do as long as it's kind of on the dark side, brown, green. I just happen to have some black. We'll use that. And God's gift to mankind, disposable paintbrushes. So let's slobber some paint on it. Well, we're going to let the paint dry on that piece of scenery, and we're going to call it quits for this week. I want to show you as much of the process in real time as possible, and that means that the clock and the videotape, they keep spinning, so I better make this into two pieces. Now, I'm going to put a link below. If you haven't seen the build on the slot car track, then you may want to check that out between now and when we do part 2 of this particular series. So hope you can join me then right here for part 2 of an easy scenery build for your slot car table. We'll see you then.